You know, it's dawned on me that everyone around me are idiots. Well, not actually. Maybe. Hello, my name is Natalia Judy, your average college nerd, and I am happy to walk you through that conversation. The conversation with your weird uncle that suddenly turns into "Wake up! The moon landing was fake!" Or how you should keep an eye out for lizard people in human skin suits. Just when regular moments snowball and take a hard left turn. Well, today we are diving into navigating situations with misinformed individuals, why theorists think the way they think, and how I would suggest one should go about handling these confrontations. I should make one thing clear. I am not providing a solution to quote-unquote fix people who believe in conspiracies, but I am more rather providing some insight to help you fix the unpleasant nature of the pesky conversations that are of smaller scale. And by small scale, I mean you should use my advice or my points to talk to someone such as your uncle or a friend who believe in oddities, such as the world being flat or that vampires exist. What I'm trying to say is don't try to start a conversation that might end up in confrontation and violence. This is because some people who are a bit heavier in their beliefs can cause problems in the real world. For example, people on January 6th raided and attacked the Capitol because they believed that the election in 2020 was rigged, and they disliked it because it was just not in their favor. So just keep in mind the insight and advice that I'm going to be giving you is meant for something just a bit smaller scale. The topic that I will be discussing can be tied into two durable skills, those skills being empathy and communication. These skills should be prioritized when speaking with misinformed individuals, because these skills can help transform an intense and emotionally charged argument into a meaningful dialogue that promotes understanding and healthy communication for both parties. But why do people believe in conspiracies? Not everything is black and white. It is important to try to understand and have empathy for everyone. So don't judge me, but some would even call me a theorist for believing in cultural stories like skinwalkers or the Wendigo. So try to internalize that not everyone who believes in theories is out of touch of reality or are a crazed individual. So let's be honest. Today's world is constantly changing, confusing, and depressing. So literally speaking, how do you feel better in the saddening state of the world? Well, it's simple. All you need to do is engage in activities such as watching a scary movie, reading, or playing games. Because your brain releases a special little chemical called dopamine. According to Shannon, a neuroscience PhD candidate from Inverse, neuroscientists believe that theorists have extra dopamine in their brain. She goes on to explain that dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is involved in emotion, reward, and cognition, which is essentially important in your decision making. Thus, those with higher dopamine output may find patterns in random shapes and occurrences. Strange, huh? But you may be asking, how can theorists continue to build beliefs shaped around mountains of opposing evidence? To make it simple, theorists kind of don't care. A common occurrence in theorist behavior is something called confirmation bias. The catalog of biases states that confirmation bias occurs when an individual looks for and uses information to support their own ideas or beliefs. It also means that information not supporting their ideas or beliefs is disregarded. Essentially, theorists will cherry-pick information without a care in the world. But why does understanding a theorist's brain matter? To simply put, it is for conversation's sake, because understanding, in my opinion, leads to compassion. Therefore, if you know about why people work the way they do, you can develop the skill of keeping your cool in conversation, which does not come as easily as you would expect. Personally, I wish I would have known and understood how theorists' brains worked sooner, This is because I have a friend who deeply believes in vampires and other classic story monsters and their existence. Don't get me wrong, I love a sparkly vampire, but I can't feasibly reason that they are real. This conflict in belief has caused tension between me and my friend on numerous occasions. But what should you not do? Here is my number one mistake: unhealthy communication. Do not mock, joke, or attack their opinions. It seems like a no-brainer, but it didn't come that easily for me. Because who wouldn't want to joke about the shimmering abs of vampires? Really though, jabbing at a theorist's opinions may make them feel stupid or less than, which in my case just solidified their opinion even more. This phenomenon is called the backfire effect. Swire, an author at PubMed Central, summarized that the backfire effect is when people report believing even more in misinformation after they have seen an evidence-based correction aiming to rectify it. This is a fancy way of saying that a theorist will recoil and dig their heels into the ground before listening to evidence. So, here's how that backfire effect would work. But there isn't evidence for that. That's exactly what the government wants you to think! Yelling and blunt statements probably won't get you anywhere, but I can't say I blame the theorists, since I too double down on my opinion when someone tells me I'm wrong. But despite one's personal beliefs, it's important to go about conversations with communication that is calm and considerate. So what can you do? Tip number 1. I think expressing curiosity about their ideas is a good thing, even if you don't actually want to ask questions or engage with them. For example, communication or general banter should go from something along the lines of, "I don't think that is true," to saying something like, "Oh wow, that's interesting, where did you learn that?" This can shift a confrontation to be an insightful conversation. Tip number 2. You don't have to share their opinion in order to agree with them. What I mean by insightful conversation was that either one of you can find some form of common ground. For example, I don't have to believe in the superstition that garlic repels vampires to understand that garlic has its own medicinal properties, like being antibacterial or antifungal. What I am getting at is that I know that having garlic around is good to keep bacteria away. In a similar way, my friend would want garlic around to ward off vampires. Or, you could both just agree to not trust a powerful government blindly, whether that being they are lizard people or the government is just corrupt. And for my final conversational tip, you cannot change someone's mind in just a singular conversation. Not that you should be trying to shift someone's perspective, but instead you should just be engaging with them even if the conversation is not pleasant. You should ask questions and show sympathy towards their thoughts. But remember, change does take time. Regardless of any of the tips or conversational tricks that I can give insight to, it's important to know when you should walk away. My number one takeaway in conversations with a theorist is you need to learn how to just walk away from the subject. If a theorist can't help but get heated or will not stop monologuing, it's okay to bow out of that encounter, because you should not only have empathy for others, but also for yourself. It is important to keep your peace. Try and say something like, "Let's talk about something else," and especially don't be afraid to exit the stage. You can just close the conversation by physically removing yourself from a theorist's presence. Because no matter how you feel, you don't owe anyone anything. So remember, when someone tells you that birds are government drones in disguise, or that sparkly vampires are real, keep in mind that it is not an argument waiting to happen, but a common ground and connection waiting to be explored. Don't forget to keep a healthy sense of communication with lots of empathy for others. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on about insights and conversational tips with a conspiracy theorist. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. But one little tidbit of advice: stay curious, kind, and feel free to fact check your weird uncle. And a special big thank you for our music from Filmora, titled Happy Diary.